Hey, how are you doing? I'm richly blessed. Pray that you are as well. Okay, so one of the challenges that we run into sometimes, or that I run into with music production, especially if it is something that is going to have more of a live musician-y kind of feel, is having some interesting fills for your bass line, right? Because I'm not a bass player, right? So, if you tell me what to play, I could play anything. But for me to naturally hear certain things, if you play bass, there's just certain things that you are going to hear that I'm not going to hear. And some of the stuff that I'm hearing is me as a keyboard player interpreting bass. So it might not sound authentic. It might sound like a keyboard player playing bass on keyboard, right? And sometimes we don't want that. And maybe you don't have access to a bass player. Maybe you're not able to bring someone into the studio to actually play it for you. Not to worry, I'm going to show you how we can use the session player, the bass session player in Logic Pro, and combine that together with bass you're actually playing to make your bass sound more authentic by using some of the different fills and articulations and things that come with the session player, right? It's really cool. You're really gonna like it. Please take a quick moment and like this video and subscribe to this channel so that way you can know when new things are coming out. But without further ado, you guys know what time it is. Production Tuesdays. Production Tuesdays. Fast on the track like I'm running laps. Yeah. Production Tuesday. Production Tuesdays. Production Tuesdays.
At McRae Music.
All right, so I've got a nice quick 4-chord loop here that I've made for the purposes of this video, but I kind of like it, so I might actually build it into something for real, for real. Let's just listen to it real quick. All right, nice, easy, right? Drum loop a la Splice and chords a la me, all right? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I am going to play the simple bass line. I'm not going to do any fills. I'm just going to play 4 notes, right? The 4 notes for the bass line, all right? And I'm going to use the same bass that we are going to use for to do the fills, right? So I'm going to go to Studio Instruments, Studio Bass. Cool, let's pick that. It's really great that they make the individual patches available to us to use. And let's switch to the patch that I'm probably going to use, which is, I believe, either Modern or Session. I think it's going to end up being Session. So we're going to go with that. If I need to change it later, I can do that. We'll leave everything the way it is. And once this loads up all the way, we'll go ahead and record the quick, simple 4-note bass line. All right, nice, simple, easy. I added a little extra something right there. We'll keep that there. That's fine. Let's just play that back. Okay, our simple bass line is done. So now what I want to do is add in a studio bass session player to get some fills. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add in a studio bass. So I'm going to go to my plus sign up here. Let's go to session player, bass player. We'll go with modern R&B. That's usually what I use to start, create. All right, so there it is. It has loaded up my session player for me. Cool. All right. Now, in order for this to work, I'm going to need to have the chords charted out, which I already have up top here. I've already done that prior to recording this video. To do that, we just simply would make sure that the chord area is turned on by right-clicking here and making sure chord is selected. And then across the top here, we'd hit our plus sign if I wanted to add in a new chord. So let's say I was adding in a new chord over here. I'd hit my plus sign. It adds in a new chord, all right? If you are like me, I have no clue what the names of some of these chords are. Some simple chords I know, but when you start getting into some weird stuff, I don't know. I'm not a classically trained musician, don't know theory like that. I know some things because I've been around some amazing musicians who have taught me some stuff, but I can play the chords. So what I like to do is come here to MIDI input, boom, hit MIDI input, and then I can play the chord. Let's go to the Rhodes so it actually sounds like something. I can then play the chord, and we can see here it's going to tell me what that is. So this of no clue what that means. That's what this chord is, right? So my first chord in that chord progression was this, right? So, oh, that's a C minor seventh. Okay, cool. And then my second chord was this, right? So I did that for each one, and that's how we have these chord progressions listed up here. Let's delete that. All right, but that's how we have these chord progressions listed up here. And this is important because when I come down here to my session player, I am going to tell it down here. It's going to, first of all, follow the chord structure that's up there. But then I could tell it to follow the chord structure, which I think should be fine, or I can tell it to follow another track. So let's just hear what this sounds like, and I'm going to mute the other bass. Let's just hear what this sounds like just following the chord structure. If I didn't change anything about the settings like I'm about to, there's some good stuff in there that I already want to use. All right, but let's look at some things that we can do here. I'm actually going to tell it here to, since I really want to do this for fills, I'm going to dial back on the fill complexity. It's a nice simple groove. We really don't need anything crazy. So let's move the complexity back to 50. Well, let's say 65%. And let's move the fill amount up a little bit so it does some more fills. Right, if I wanted to, the chord rhythm is fine, but if I had a different rhythm, I could tell it to follow the rhythm of a specific track instead of the chords. I like what it's doing right now. Let's move the intensity down a little bit so it's nice and smooth. Let's move the complexity down a little bit. And we'll keep the phrasing at medium. And let's see what we got now. All right, it's cool. Let's turn the fills down a little bit, and I can keep tweaking this. So I'm going to tweak this a little bit until I get it where I want, and then let's see what we come up with. All right, I think this is where I want it to be. Let's check it out. All right, that is sweet. All right, now here is the trick. Now that I have it the way that I want, I don't want it to change. So I'm going to go ahead and convert this to a MIDI region, right? I'm going to control click on this, and I'm going to say convert to MIDI region. Boom. So now we've got the MIDI. All right, so this is great. So now let's go here and let's say bass notes, and here we'll say bass fills. All right, this is sweet. So now I'm going to come through, now that I have this as a MIDI region, let's come through here and take out the stuff that I don't want. I actually like that opening part. This chord I don't need. All right, this I don't like. All right, everything else I'm good. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is we're gonna mash this together with my regular bass notes, and let's take out the stuff we don't need from my bass notes. I don't need this anymore. Don't need this anymore. We're gonna keep that note. This anymore. All right, we're going to Really, we're gonna get rid of all of this. We got ourselves a bass line. I really, in this case, only kept 2 notes from what I originally did. So now what I'm gonna do is group these together. Group, summing stack, create. Let's call this bass comp. Now let's just take a look at the bass that's being used here to make sure it's the same. Yes. So we're using this. Let's just copy that and just paste that real quick right here, just in case there's any difference. I don't believe there is. And let's listen to what our bass line is sounding like now. And I could play around with the volume. I feel like that's because I dropped the bass notes down. So let's pull the fill down a little bit. Matter of fact, let's just put them all up and then we'll move the comp down. So I could just play around with it to make sure that everything matches up. And this is great. In this particular instance, I ended up using more of what the studio bass is doing, the performance bass, studio performer is doing. But in some cases, I'm using more of what I'm doing. Sometimes it's both. But the point is, we have a more interesting bass line with some realistic sounding fills by combining together us just playing the simple notes with adding in some fills. Mash it together. Let's listen one more time. Let's just listen to the bass line without the Rhodes. Beautiful. You can't tell me there's not a bass player in the studio playing that. You can't tell me that. I mean, you could tell because you're looking at me do it, but once this is mixed, you're never gonna know what's happening here. So if you're looking for a way to make your bass lines more interesting, try combining the session player with your actual bass playing. Take the things you want from one, don't want from the other, mash it together, and you got yourself a nice, interesting bass line. Okay, I really hope that was helpful to you. Try it out, play around with it, and play around with the other session musicians that are there as well. Mainly the piano player, but the drums too, right? If you're doing just some regular pocket drums and you want to try to work in some fills, try it out. Use the same plugin that's being used, the same instrument that's being used. Try combining it together, see what works. Also, everyone, please reach out to Apple and the developers of Logic Pro and tell them to please add a guitar session player. I will pay money for a guitar. If I could just get a nice acoustic guitar session player, electric guitar session player, please do that and do it immediately. All right. So hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys again soon for another edition of Production Tuesday.